With the 16E not being the budget SE model we were hoping for, let's see if it still makes sense to pay a little bit more for a 1-year-old model, the iPhone 15. This video I'll be doing a comprehensive comparison on the hardware, user experience, features, and which model would best fit your needs. So feel free to skip around in this video per the chapter markers. But let's start out with the options. So the 15 and the 16E both have the same storage capacity options at 128, 256, or 512 gigabytes. The starting prices at launch were $799 and $599 respectively, but the 15 now costs $699 and possibly even cheaper depending on where you buy it. The 15 came in a lot of different colors to choose from, whereas the 16E only comes in white or black. Now let's take a look at what came in the box when you first get them brand new. The boxes they came in are very comparable in size. The 15 was maybe just a smidge thicker than the 16E, but otherwise the sides all look the same. It's all black print, Apple logo, iPhone. On the back you can see exactly what model you have, as well as what storage option you got, and a few other basic features written out on there. When you first open them up, you're greeted with the phones themselves. You can see I have both the black models in front of me. Just underneath the phones are their charging cables, which they both come with the USB Type-C braided cable, so USB-C to USB-C. Just the layout's a little bit different between the two. The paperwork and the cables are like half and half for the 15, whereas the 16E has a larger loop, so it covers the entire paper just underneath, which is a large pill shape. Both models, at least in the US, no longer support the physical SIM card, so there's no SIM card tray ejector found in either of these. Now let's discuss the hardware and featural differences. So first off, with the size, the 16E is just a tad bit shorter, as you can see. The 16E also has a smaller camera bump, and that also attributes to its slightly lighter weight as well. But as for what they both have the same in terms of hardware or features, they both have matte glass backs, aluminum side rails, dual SIM, 2 active eSIMs, but you can store up to 8 eSIMs. They both don't have any headphone jack, but they have IP68 water resistance, Bluetooth 5.3, Wi-Fi 6, NFC for mobile wallet payments, 5G antenna bands, the emergency SOS feature plus crash detection, and the ability to send messages to the satellite. Unsure about if this will eventually become a paid service, but at least as of the recording of this video, it is a free service. Moving on to the differences between the two feature-wise, the 15 has the A16 Bionic 6-core CPU, 5-core GPU chip, versus the 16E's A18 6-core CPU, 4-core GPU. So even though the A series is higher on the 16E, the 15 actually has an extra core of GPU. But as a differentiating factor, the 16 series and above, unless it was a Pro model beforehand, all have the Apple Intelligence. So the 15 base model doesn't have Apple Intelligence, if that matters to you. But the 15 has the classic mute switch still, whereas on the 16E, it has turned into an action button, which you can program for various different shortcut keys. Comparing the screens, they both have a 6.1-inch display, but the 15 has curvier edges, so the screen protectors on the 16 versus the 15 will not exactly be compatible. You can see the edges on the 15, it just has a little bit of an air gap because of that curve. But they both have the same pixel density and they both have ceramic shields, so theoretically you don't need a screen protector, but me being the overprotective person I am of my devices, I still slap on a screen protector. And on paper, the 15 has a superior screen at 2000 nits of brightness outdoors, but personally I really didn't notice it day to day. Even direct comparison between the two is very hard to notice the difference. Functionality-wise, the 15 does have the newer dynamic island, and honestly, when you get used to its functionality, like starting timers at a quick glance or being able to quickly jump back to your navigation or see really basic at-a-glance information without taking up your whole screen, it really is hard to go back to the simple notch design which is found on the 16E. Charging wise, they both support wireless Qi charging, and wired is USB Type-C, USB 2 speeds. They charge at 20 watts wired and can get 50% of its battery capacity in 30 minutes. Though the 15 has MagSafe wireless, the 16E controversially doesn't have MagSafe. It still has wireless charging, but it's at a slower 7.5 watts of wireless charging. But honestly, with a lot of people putting cases on their devices, you can easily just get a MagSafe case compatible with your 16E, and then you can get the MagSafe features with all the nice accessories that go along with it. Battery life, this is where the 16E is triumphant at 26 hours versus the rated 20 hours on the 15, and I can definitely say there is a notable difference day to day using the two. The 16E definitely does last significantly longer than my 15. As for speaker quality, go ahead and put on your favorite headphones and have a listen. Honestly, I really can't tell the difference. They're very comparable. Even their max volume outputs are also roughly the same decibels. Now let's move on to the camera comparison. Starting off with the rear camera. So obviously the 15 has an extra one. It has a 48 megapixel wide f1.6 aperture camera plus a 12 megapixel f2.4 aperture ultra wide camera, which would ultimately support 0.5, 1 and 2x zooms, and it also allows you to take cinematic videos, have that action mode, and with the 15 sensor shift technology you get much steadier videos. And thanks to this two camera setup, you're able to see outside of the frame that you will actually capture on the 15, and it is able to automatically detect portrait mode. As you can see in this comparison, the 15 easily picked up my subject and was able to put the bokeh in the background, where the 16E had trouble with this one. And then when I try to get the same effect for objects, it's definitely a lot trickier on the 16E. I have to get the object much closer for it to detect that it is the one that needs to be in focus. The camera department is definitely where the 16E falls short. It has a single 48 megapixel 1.6 aperture fusion camera, so it only supports 1x and 2x zooms for photos, videos, and time-lapse, and then only 1x for slow-mo videos. It is able to record spatial audio, and it has some software tricks up its sleeves like wind reduction. But as you look through these images and videos comparing the two, there's a clear advantage with the two camera setup with the 15. Color accuracy is better on the 15, it's sharper, more detailed. The blacks on the 16E just seems to be very light and washed out. That's not to say the 16E is bad, but it's just not as good as the 15. But they do have a lot of the same capabilities or settings. They both support photographic styles, have portrait modes with that bokeh effect and portrait lightings, but again, the 15 will do better in this category. They can both do HDR videos, they both go up to 4K 60 FPS, and slow-mo up to 240 FPS at 1080p. They both support stereo audio recording. And also time-lapse, both day and night. Deep fusion, night photography, and this is another area that the 16E just struggles with. You can see the images produced by the 16E is just hard to focus. There's a lack of sharpness. Colors are much more washed out on the 16E, and then when you don't have flash on, you really can't even see anything at night. Though unfortunately, they both still suffer from that green glare issue that's prevalent on all iPhones. Moving on to the front-facing cameras, they both have 12 megapixels at f1.9, and they both support retina flash if you really want that nighttime selfie, portrait mode, Animoji, Memoji if anybody still uses that. Slow-mo's on the front-facing camera as well. The 15 has that bonus cinematic mode to Dolby Vision though. Now let's compare the software performance or the general user experience, because specs is one thing, but actual day-to-day usage is quite another. Full disclosure, I am running iOS 18.2 on the iPhone 15 and 18.3 on the 16e, because the 15 is actually my work phone and my company doesn't allow us to update our software beyond that, so that's as close as I can get. But they are both 128 gigabytes in capacity, and they both have similar software loaded on. So let's go ahead and start out with the processor benchmark. It turns out that there isn't really a huge difference between the two in terms of benchmark. The CPU performance is actually quite comparable, kind of to be expected, the same number of cores. And then the GPU performance is actually just a little bit better, amazingly enough, on the 16E, but I wouldn't say it's like a huge jump or anything like that. As for the RAM, though, it's actually quite a bit better on the 15. And then for some of the other small processes, it's pretty much neck to neck, but it seems like the 16E does slightly edge out the 15 here. Let's move on to real world tests. Let's start out with the boot up times. And it looks like the 16E just slightly edges out the 15 by about 3 seconds, but definitely not a deal breaker. Navigating through the OS on a normal basis, pulling down notification center, the control panel, toggling options, scrolling, it's all very seamless, really nothing to differentiate between the two. Pretty much same story with the Safari browser tab openings. It's really going to vary between the two, but it's very minimal. If anything, YouTube video load times are roughly the same as well. Opening apps, it's also, again, roughly the same. No surprises here. I mean, they have very comparable processors. Maybe the 16E is just slightly faster, but you really won't notice it unless you really show them side by side like I'm doing right now. As for the gaming performance, I personally couldn't see any noticeable difference between the two, but full disclosure, I'm definitely not a gamer. Maybe you'll benefit from that extra GPU core on the 15, but I really don't think it's going to make a huge difference. If anything, the 16E should last longer with its better battery life, so that might be a consideration in that regard. But really, I think the main software consideration is just the processor on the 16E, which is able to support Apple Intelligence, which is definitely going to be something that's very important in the future with AI taking over pretty much everything. So longevity-wise, the 16E is of course projected to last longer in that regard. And if you really do care about Apple Intelligence, which it honestly is in its very early stages right now, you'll probably want to future-proof with the 16E. So to summarize, get the 16E if you care about future-proofing, you want Apple Intelligence, you are okay with just the basics with that single camera, but you really care about battery life. The 16E definitely has that going for it. If you are a little bit disappointed with the lack of MagSafe, just get a MagSafe case. It's really not that big of a deal. The wireless charging piece, yeah, it's a little slower, but honestly, it's not something you would really notice too much day to day. The 15 is still a really good option if you want that 2 rear camera setup. It really is a much better phone for pictures and photography if you really do care about that. And of course, it could potentially be even cheaper than 16E depending on where you get it. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please help me out by smashing that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.